This video is about the quality roll-up indicator and what it means to your team. The data for the quality roll-up indicator as they're presented in 2.0 are really more conceptual than reflective of the performance of your team. And the reason for that is because the data are still what we call raw data. They don't incorporate the effect of missing data, nor do they really consider the thresholds of performance on each of the indicators. And the reason for that is because we don't know what those are, and we couldn't know them until we have data. And now we do, so we're trying to answer those questions. So people have been asking, why would we show the data before we answer those questions? And the number one reason for that is because it's your data, so you get to see it. And another reason is that without having these data, it's really hard to move from the abstract concept that AFHTO has really been talking about in terms of the Starfield principles for about 5 years, to something that could actually work at the front lines of primary care. So now that we have the data, we can get to those important questions about how to make this work at the front lines. Now, having said that, we probably need a cheat sheet. You need a cheat sheet, I need a cheat sheet. There's information on the website about this, background information on the web. So the good news is that now that we have the data, we are starting to be able to answer some of these interesting questions. And one of the things we're finding is that the idea of measuring quality of primary care in a way that reflects what's comprehensive and patient-centered is not just an abstract concept. It actually works. We've been able to do the statistical analysis to show that it's an acceptable measure of quality at the team level and at the membership level. And the other thing we've been able to find is that it maybe doesn't need that whole range of indicators that we thought it did. Maybe it only needs about 14. And I say maybe because we're not 100% sure, but as I said, the statistical analysis shows that it's at an acceptable level even with just the 14. So that's really good because it makes it more useful and possible at the frontline level. And the last thing that's really exciting is that quality of care, as measured in this way, does seem to be related to cost, and related in a good way. In other words, teams that have higher levels of quality, as measured by the roll-up indicator, have lower levels of cost. And that is really exciting. So what's next? Well, one of the things that we want to do is we want to move from acceptable to excellent. And a part of the way we're going to do that is get more data from more teams so that we can really understand how many indicators are required. Is it just 14 or does it need to be a few more? And specifically which ones? And so that's going to be a big part of our push for D2D 3.0. Another thing we need to do is get clear about what the thresholds of performance are for each of the individual indicators, as well as for the roll-up indicator as a whole. And finally, because this is actually an acceptable measure of quality, we are going to be using it in conversations to emphasize the value that AFHTO members are providing in terms of comprehensive, patient-centered primary care to the people of Ontario. If you want to know more about the D2D project or the roll-up indicator, you can check out the D2D page on the AFHTO members only webpage. Or if you want to remind yourself or share with others why we're doing the roll-up indicator, you could click on the first video that we did in this series. Or if you want to learn more about how to actually calculate the indicator, you can click on the second video in the series.